So, why do people hold cash balances? Or why don't people keep all their money in the banks? So, this is the basic question which is asked in like most of the competitive exams or in any places, and this is also the basic which we should know to deal with our day-to-day lives. So first of all, we'll come to know the meaning of cash balances. Cash balances is nothing but this is the money which public wishes to hold or maintain for certain motives. So by cash balance it simply means that जो पैसा हमारे पास हम रखते हैं, जो we will have some wishes, right? We will have some wishes to fulfill, we have some motives to do in our day-to-day lives, so we keep a certain amount of money with us, so that is nothing but cash balance. So the first motive would be a transaction motive. Now what is a transaction motive? A transaction motive is nothing but the demand for money, for day-to-day uses, for day uses or transactions. That is why we call it the transaction motive. So this transaction motive definitely depends on one factor, that is the person's level of income. This is very important. The transactionary motive or the transaction purpose depends on the person's level of income. So depending on the person's level of income, example, the person's level of income is high. Okay, the person's level of income is high, so the amount of money which the person will hold in hand for day-to-day use will be high, definitely. So here we will denote demand for money as DM, and we will denote transaction motive as T, and income as we all know is denoted by Y. So since we can say that there is a positive relationship between income and demand for money for transactionary purposes, so this function can be written in a proper way like dmt equal to function of y. Now we have the precautionary motive. Now what is the precautionary motive? As the word suggests, precaution means we take certain steps to to be prepared for any unforeseen contingencies. Okay, so what happens in precautionary motive? We demand a particular sum of money. We demand a particular sum of money for precautionary purposes, for precautions would make it more easier. For precautions would mean what? Example, unforeseen activities would be what? Example, we don't know when we will meet with any kind of accidents, right? Any kind of accidents may come on our way, plus we may fall sick. So in these kind of accidents and these kind of circumstances where we fall sick, we need money immediately, urgently, right? So because of which in these kind of situations we cannot go to the bank and then and take out the money. Sometimes we do not have time for certain kind of things, so as a result of what happens, we keep a certain amount of money with ourselves for precautions, for a precautionary motive, to provide for unforeseen contingencies. the demand for money for precautionary motive again depends on the level of income. So again, this portion also depends on the level of income of the individual, of the individual. So here again, demand for money would be denoted by DM, and here we will denote the precautionary motive, precautionary motive as P. So therefore our function will be dm P equal to function of y. So what does this mean? This means that the demand for money for precautionary motive depends on the function of income, means the level of income. It simply means that it depends on the level of income of the person, and this is again a positive relationship between income and demand for money for precautionary motive. So lastly, we have the speculative motive. So the speculative motive means what? It means the demand of cash balances. It means the demand for money to invest in shares, bonds, etc. It means we demand a particular amount of money, the cash balance, to invest in shares and bonds. Means we invest in shares and bonds. Why? To get return, to earn more income out of it. Okay, but here the demand for money, but here the demand depends upon rate of interest to be paid on borrowed funds of investment, on borrowed funds of investment. It means what? It means this, that the demand depends upon rate of interest to be paid on borrowed funds of investment. For example, I'll just give an example. For example, the rate of interest given by the bank on the money which we deposit in it is really very high. Okay, so why will we have money in our cash? We will not have money in our cash. We will not hold money in our cash. Why? Because if we keep that same amount of money in bank, we will get returns, we will get higher rate of investments, returns, because and the deposit, the money which we have kept in the bank, would give us a good amount of money in return. But for example, we do not have a very good amount of interest given by the banks. The interest rate which the bank provides us is very low. So what is the point of us keeping the money in banks as deposits? What will we do is, generally we withdraw the money and then invest in shares, bonds. Why? Because from these places we get more returns. So here it is very important to note that there is a negative relationship between rate of interest and demand of money. Demand of money will be denoted as DM for speculative motive. So this function, if we denote the speculative motive as S, so this function can be denoted as DMS equal to function of R. Here R is nothing but the rate of interest.